What if I told you that when you die, you could give someone the best gift imaginable? This is a gift that anyone can give, it has no cost, and this gift could save up to 8 people's lives. This gift is organ donation. Today we'll be discussing how you can change someone's life simply by becoming a registered organ donor. I've learned more about organ donation through both extensive research and personal experience. When my cousin passed away, she was an organ donor, and my boyfriend's dad had received a kidney transplant just a couple years ago. So I've gotten to see both the donor side and also the recipient side. Organ donation is a topic that's honestly relevant to all of us because at some point in our lives, we could be on the transplant list, someone we know could be on the transplant list, and the more people we get to register to become donors, the more lives will be saved. Today I'll be talking about organ donation, but more specifically, the organ shortage our world is suffering from, how our action is required to solve this devastating problem, and also how organ donation benefits everybody involved. First, I'll be discussing how the lack of registered organ donors is causing a nationwide shortage of organs to use in transplants. The organ shortage that our world is experiencing is both devastating and serious. Experts think that people aren't registering as organ donors because there's simply a lack of education and there's also misconceptions in regards to religious groups. The lack of education we have about organ donation is a contributing factor as to why people aren't registered as donors. To give you some perspective, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, only 54% of U.S. adults are registered as organ donors. That's only about half of us. Because there aren't more registered donors, on average 20 people die every single day because they're waiting on the organ transplant list. Another reason some people aren't registered is because they think they're not the correct age, but that's not true because you can honestly be any age. For example, one of the oldest organ donors in the United States was a 92-year-old man named Carlton. When he passed away, a 69-year-old woman who was suffering from end-stage liver disease was able to get his liver, and because of the gift he gave her, she was able to live many more healthy years. OrganDonor.gov had written a little summary about Carlton, and they had said, Carlton illustrated that age is no barrier to sharing life, and that couldn't be more true. The only age barrier that would apply is if you're under 18 and you're a minor, you will need your parents' consent to register for organ donation. Select people also believe that if they're registered as an organ donor and something happens to them, the hospital won't try as hard to save their life because they'd rather have the organs. But that's so far from the truth. The hospital's goal is always to save your life. They're not thinking about the people who need the organs. And quite honestly, the transplant team is completely separate from the hospital members who are working on you. People need to be educated about this because this seems to be a huge myth, and this contributes to the fact that people don't register to be organ donors. Another factor I think contributes to this is that people watch medical shows like Grey's Anatomy, and they assume that that's what happens in real-life hospitals, but we need to separate ourselves and realize that that's a TV show. That's not what happens in real life. Oftentimes, there are also misconceptions about organ donation in regards to different religious groups. According to Elizabeth Lynch, a writer for Nursing Standard, when she spoke with people from different religious groups, she said that there was almost a sense of ownership, like God had given me these organs and they're mine to use, and I'm not sure if I want to give them to someone else. But according to Mayo Clinic, when they had talked with different religious leaders, they had found that organ donation is actually very consistent with the beliefs of many different religions. The major religions are Roman Catholicism, Islam, Judaism, and Protestant faiths. They had said that organ donation is seen as an act of charity and compassion. It's an act of love, and you're helping someone else, which is what religion is usually mostly about. According to Sue Sutherland, the chief executive of UK Transplant, she says that people just don't talk about this topic, and if we talked about it more, we could bury these myths and have more people become registered donors. As a whole, there is a lack of registered organ donors because people are both uneducated about organ transplants and they are misinformed about the parameters of certain religions. Now that we've talked about why there is such a shortage of registered organ donors, I'll be talking about how each one of us has the power to solve this detrimental problem. Solving the problem of a lack of registered organ donors requires our action immediately. When deciding you want to become an organ donor, it's essential that you talk this decision over with your family. This is important because if by some chance you're taken unexpectedly and you pass away, your family will know your wishes and they can pass them on to the doctor. If your family's unaware, your wishes of being an organ donor might never be carried out. Registering to be an organ donor also takes minimal time if you want to do it yourself. A popular way to do this is to go online at organdonor.gov and fill out the application and submit it. Another way is to go to your local DMV when you renew your license, and they will stamp your driver's license with a little stamp that says you're an organ donor. So if anything were to happen to you, people would know that you're a registered organ donor. In summary, when you decide you want to be a registered organ donor, it's essential that you talk this decision over with your family, but also that you physically go and register yourself. Now that I've explained how easy it is for us to register and take action against this problem, I'll be explaining why organ donation benefits everybody involved. Organ donation benefits everyone involved, and it allows for lives to be saved and also provides closure for the donor's family. Organ donation allows for lives to be changed forever in such a positive way. Now I'm going to share a little personal story. Earlier I had mentioned that my cousin Jenny was an organ donor and she had passed away. Well, when Jenny was 26 years old, she had unfortunately suffered from a brain aneurysm, which was very unexpected. She was a healthy adult, so this came to a surprise to me and the rest of my family. After the aneurysm, there were lots of complications, and sadly, after those complications, she ended up passing away. But Jenny was a registered organ donor, so all of her organs ended up being harvested, and they saved the lives of so many other people. Because she was a registered donor, 2 people were taken off dialysis because they got kidney transplants. Someone received her corneas, and they were allowed to see for the very first time. Her liver and her heart were transplanted, and her skin was used for many different grafts on many different people. According to the U.S. government information on organ donation and transplantation, as of August 2017, there were over 116 men, women, and children on the national transplant list, and I'm so happy that my cousin Jenny got to help some of these people. Organ donation can also give grieving families comfort and closure during a very sad and difficult time. Jenny's mom had received letters from multiple people who had gotten Jenny's organs thanking her for this wonderful gift because they were finally able to continue living. One letter that stood out to me was from a young boy who received one of Jenny's kidneys, and he had explained that he'd been on dialysis almost his entire life and he didn't know what it felt like to be a kid. After the transplant, he said he finally felt healthy and he could go out and be a kid and hang out with his friends and do activities. He finally felt like he had his life back. Jenny's mom explained that her organ donation helped her gain closure, and it also helped her cope with the loss of her daughter, because although Jenny wasn't here anymore, she was living on through other people who had her organs. There's truly no negative to being a registered donor. You get to save people's lives, and it can also provide your family with closure during a sad time. After visualizing the difference you could make in countless people's lives, are you ready to make a difference and register to be an organ donor? As we wrap things up here today, I'd like to remind you of the 3 points I've covered. The fact that our world is suffering from a tragic organ shortage. How our action is required to solve this devastating problem by going and registering to be organ donors. And also how organ donation benefits everyone involved, both the recipient and the donor family. When thinking about registering to be an organ donor, I urge you to think about the life that you could give to other people. Your liver could go to the mother who wants to see her kids graduate high school. Your corneas could go to the child who's never seen the world around him. Or the grandma who spends her days in dialysis instead of playing with her grandkids. You have the power to make a difference. I'm going to leave you with a quote from the United Network for Organ Sharing. Without the organ donor, there is no story, no hope, no transplant. But when there is an organ donor, life springs from death, sorrow turns to hope, and a terrible loss becomes a gift.